My name is John Crichton.
My name is John Crichton. My name is John Crichton. Look upward and share the wonders I've seen.
I like my wives pregnant and my ships cold to the touch. That way my feet stay warm and my slumber is uninterrupted.
Wives plural? Big fella.
Hello, and welcome to episode Lucky 13 of the ScapeCast, your guide to the wonders of Farscape. I'm your co-host, Lindy Ray.
And I'm Kevin Batchelder.
On this episode of the ScapeCast, we're going to have
the Rigel character review for Season 2, and hopefully he won't barge into the booth on us, Lindy.
I hope so. The second part of Aliens, Wormholes, and Muppets.
Oh my. And also we're going to have another of our crew chats where we talk a bit about the ScapeCast and what's been going on with that over the past 6 months or so.
We'll also have our regular features like trivia, news, and the question of the week.
This show's spoiler level is
Season 3.
And now, this episode's word, brought to you by Ema, Zoe Zuzu, Orville the Annoyed, and Mr. Hoople.
Doggo, you should study this. LMNOPQ. Just a few of their words, just in case.
Try harder, Zoe Zuzu. Advance. Lunge. Parry. Arg. Avast me hearties. Passy avant. That was Orville's trash can. Retreat. Run.
What are you kids doing? Get away from my trash can.
What's the problem, Orville?
Hey, Mr. Hoople. Those darn kids. They make enough noise to wake a Boodong and then they run away and hide. Are you listening, kids? Quit pleeking around. Or else.
Orville? What does pleeking mean?
Sneaking around.
Thanks. I'll be sure to let them know if I see them.
Psst. Mr. Hoople?
Ema. And Zoe Zuzu, have you two been bothering Orville the slightly annoyed, who is now very annoyed?
Not deliberately. Ema was just showing me how to sword fight, and my sword slipped, and I hit Orville's trash can.
I see. Well, Orville would appreciate it if you would stop pleeking around his trash can then.
Pleeking? What's that mean?
It means sneaking about or horsing around. I think you two should really stop pretend sword fighting around Orville's trash can.
Okay, Mr. Hoople. Thanks. So where are we going to sword fight now, Ema? I only said we would stop pretend sword fighting. I didn't say I would stop real sword fighting. No more pleeking around for us. We are the Dread Pirate E and her deadly sword Ben, and Black Zoe Zuzu right out in the open now. You named your sword Ben? Yes, after a beautiful man. Then, I'm going to name my sword David. On guard. Disengage.
Hey.
Coupe.
Stop it.
Passe avant.
That's enough.
Hey, that was another great segment. You know, Lindy, one of the fun things I really like about those Trout Talk segments is the fact that, I mean, we all know the really popular ones like Frel and so forth. It's nice to be seeing some of the other words that might have come and gone so quickly in the episodes we forgot about them.
I know. I just am going to try to figure out how I'm going to use pleeking in a sentence next week.
Doesn't quite roll off the tongue, does it? Some of the other words do, but that one, I catch myself trying to say it right.
Welcome to this episode's Farscape trivia question. Rigel's a Hynerian, right? Think back on the entirety of Farscape. Can you tell me how many Hynerians we've seen on Farscape? Okay, let's make it easier and limit to just living Hynerians. But the answer may still trick you, so be careful. Stay tuned for the answer later in the show. For the ScapeCast, I am Brent Barrett.
Hey guys, this is Julie. I thought episode 12 was spectacular. I think it is the best yet. I loved it. I loved the interviews. I loved all the segments. I think it just keeps getting better and better. You guys are terrific. Way to go, guys. Take care.
Our next segment is about Rigel from Season 2. It's written by Nicola Wood.
Magnificent, I smell power again.
Dominar Rigel the 16th of Hyneria, ruler of over 600 billion subjects, deposed. In Rigel's mind, that's only a temporary setback. From the first moment of his escape in Premiere, Rigel's driving goal has been to regain his throne. Frustrated by his lack of progress in that direction, Rigel attempts to sell out his companions to the Peacekeepers in the Season 1 finale, Family Ties. Treachery, which was contingent upon his acquiring money, ship, crew, a map home, and a full pardon, all of which was to get him started on regaining his throne. Indeed, if he thought he would have gotten away with it, he would have asked for full Peacekeeper support in reclaiming his birthright. However, Rigel's attempt to strike a deal with Scorpius and Crace was an unmitigated disaster, and his first attempt at regaining his throne came to an ignominious end. Rigel found himself back on Moya, and grateful to be there. Of course, not surprisingly, the rest of the crew found it difficult to forgive Rigel for his attempted betrayal, and in the episode, Crackers Don't Matter, Erin expresses her feelings towards Rigel in no uncertain manner.
You're lying. You know how I know that? Because you always lie. You have no integrity. You have no honor. You cheat, you steal, you lie, you stuff your face. That's you!
Mm-hmm. Undoubtedly, Erin's outburst was prompted by Traltix somehow manipulating her paranoia. But his manipulations only revealed the fissures between the crewmates. He did not create them. Erin was just verbalizing her worst opinion of Rigel. So Rigel finds himself in the humiliating position of having to not only prove his value to his crewmates in order to convince them that he is a worthy crewmate, but also to regain their trust, a task made more difficult as the rest of the crew doesn't even want to let Rigel try.
I am...
Oh, no, wait, Jose, you keep your mouth shut.
But I am our best negotiator.
Our best self-serving to hell with everyone else-iator, you just shut up.
Rigel may be a deposed Dominar, and thoroughly mistrusted on Moya, but nevertheless is fully aware of the intricacies and negotiations of court intrigue, and is no slouch when it comes to safeguarding his own interests. In Farscape's first trilogy, Look at the Princess, Rigel proves to be so good at political intrigue that he even gains the respect of perhaps the only other person on the planet who understands the corkscrew workings of his mind. So, when Crichton becomes the single most important male on the planet, and his safety is in jeopardy, Rigel manages to convince Empress Novia that his plan of hiding Crichton is the safest way of keeping her prospective son-in-law alive.
You are most wise, Empress.
And you are most manipulative, Dominar.
Indeed, had Empress Novia's lackey been trustworthy, Rigel's plan would have worked. Even Dargo learns to admire Rigel's ability to assess the complex political situation.
It's all politics, John. As a neutral, powerful kingdom, they expel someone during coronation, it will have negative consequences which will ripple outwards.
You know, you're starting to sound like an old history professor.
Rigel's been very excellent at teaching me.
In fact, the only time Rigel ever seems to consider abandoning the quest to reclaim his throne is on the royal planet. The opportunity to be the power behind the throne, the advisor to Empress Novia, and eventually Princess Catrala, and her consort Crichton, seems to be too much for him to resist.
You really going to stay, Rog?
Why not? Crichton will need advising, and the food's good.
But as all Farscape plans, even Rigel's, seem fated to do, this one falls apart. Crichton was decapitated. Don't worry, it wasn't fatal. And his head was stolen, making him ineligible to ascend the throne. This is odd when you think about it, because it wasn't Crichton's head that Empress Novia and Princess Catrala were interested in. The rest of the trilogy becomes a race to find the head of the black statue and restore it to its rightful position on top of Crichton's shoulders. The Machiavellian shenanigans of the various characters unfold with confusing swiftness, but in the end, Rigel is able to say with some confidence to Counselor Tyno,
I'm assuming my execution is off.
Fortunately, Crichton ultimately did not reclaim his position as Catrala's consort, and both he and Rigel and the rest of the crew returned to Moya to resume their journeying. And Rigel, once again, refocused on reclaiming his throne on Hyneria. However, living hand-to-mouth as these fugitives do means, frustratingly, his plans must take a second place to simple survival, and mostly means laying low, keeping under the scans, not drawing attention to themselves. There's only one problem with that. Rigel finds that approach boring. Fortunately, Rigel discovers someone else on Moya who feels the same way. Chiana, the runaway Nabari. Rigel and Chiana are very different individuals. Rigel is well over 300 cycles old, and in spite of spending much of the last part of his life in peacekeeper custody, he comes from a privileged background, full of concubines and servants to carry out his every wish. Even as a prisoner, he never had to do much for himself. Rigel's main goal is to return to his home and reclaim his birthright. By contrast, Chiana is a very young runaway who could not wait to abandon her home world, and would be delighted if she never saw Nabari Prime again. Rigel looks like a frog, pugnacious and tough, and outside of his element he needs a throne sled to move around. Chiana, on the other hand, is delicate-looking and presents an attractive, vulnerable appearance, although in her case reality is far from perception. But underneath these superficial differences, these two are kindred spirits. Both of them rejected society's norms. Chiana, because she refuses to acknowledge their relevancy, and Rigel, because he refuses to acknowledge their relevancy to him. Did I mention both of them were bored? That's a recipe for mayhem. Together, Rigel and Chiana take every opportunity to exploit a situation to their advantage. For example, in The Locket, Rigel and Chiana investigate a transport pod that Aaron has taken to explore the mist that enveloped Moya. Even though the chances of finding anything of value in the transport pod was minuscule, neither of them could resist.
No, but she still might have come back with something interesting.
Are you going to steal it?
Of course not.
You're worse than me. I like that.
Rigel and Chiana are pretty much an unbeatable team when they work together. In the episode Dream a Little Dream, the two of them join forces to save Zan, despite Zan's best efforts from being unjustly convicted of murder. Even though their defense could have resulted in their own deaths had their duplicity been discovered, both of them were delighted when the opportunity arose that required...
It's chancy and will require lashings of deception and trickery.
Finally, you and I get to play to our strengths.
The relationship between Chiana and Rigel was not just based on a shared propensity for creating trouble, however. Rigel had a rare respect for Chiana. He admired her in ways that he did not feel for any other member of the crew. Even though Rigel is very fond, in an oddly paternalistic and curmudgeonly way, of Aaron and Zan and Moya, his grief over Chiana's supposed death in Picture As You Will reveals a bond both deep and surprisingly genuine.
She was quite a lot like me, you know. She had spirit, ambition, large appetites. She would have made an excellent Hynerian. I'm actually going to miss her.
In Liars, Guns, and Money, Chiana and Rigel's aptitude for deception and trickery becomes an asset. Rigel agrees to infiltrate the Shadow Depository ensconced inside a statue and allows himself to be checked in as precious goods on short-term deposit. Once inside the Shadow Depository, Rigel successfully switches his worthless cargo container for one that had...
In one container is enough wealth to buy the entire shipment of slaves and still have enough left over to make all of us filthy rich forever.
Or enough to fund a rebellion on Hyneria, perhaps? Sadly, their plan once again disintegrates around them. This time, all their lovely money turns into dross in front of their eyes, and long-suffering Moya takes the brunt of the disaster, resulting in severe damage to almost 1/9 of her total body. Curing and caring for the Leviathan was a complex and costly process.
Trace and Helen have located some kind of surgeon, a healer species. We're almost there. We're all choosing one or two items we want. The rest is to pay any fee for Moya's remedy.
And Rigel is as willing as all the rest of Moya's crew to donate his share of the spoils to pay for Moya's care. But Rigel still has plans for his future. And even though tragedy strikes at the end of Season 2, his plans continue. However, he is not untouched by the tragedy, and he lays in Aaron's coffin his seal of a Hynerian Dominar, the medallion he retrieved from the wreck of the Zelbinian.
You are more worthy of this. At peace, Aaron.
For all Rigel's blind determination to regain his throne, and his inherent selfishness, His horizons have been expanded by his interaction with Moya and her crew. They have become his friends, his students, his teachers, and his mentors. They are people he is proud to call family, although he'd never admit it. And with the loss of Aaron, Rigel realizes that perhaps at least one of them is more worthy than he of some of the honors that have been heaped upon him. For what might be the first time in his long life, Rigel recognizes that the bonds go both ways, give and take, where the total is more than the sum of its parts. For the ScapeCast, this is Ken Shpina.
So after hearing that great article, that brings up an excellent point. We want to talk about something brand new I think we're all going to enjoy. If you think you've got a great idea for a segment or an article that would appeal to other Farscape fans, this is your chance to have it heard. We have a contest for you. It's going to be called the Thanks for Sharing Contest.
The ScapeCast crew is very excited to announce this writers contest. The first prize is a $50 gift certificate to geeklabel.com. The two runners-up will each get a $30 gift certificate to geeklabel.com. Of course, the winners will have their segment produced for the ScapeCast. So, Kevin, what do you need to do to win one of these awesome prizes?
Well, Lindy, what it is you've got to write us an original article about Farscape. Now, it can be on any topic that really tickles your interest. That's the whole point here. It's very broad in scope. We're looking for articles that are about probably 1,000 words in length. It can be a silly one. It can be very deep or profound. It's up to you. It can be both. Mix them all together. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's a happy one or a sad one. We're just looking for something good that we think the Farscape fans will enjoy. So it can be about anything from the different species in Farscape or about the humans on Earth. It can even be about the fans of the show if you want to take it and talk about scapers and things like that. Now, the articles will be judged by the ScapeCast crew, and the winners will be announced probably in late January or early February.
So basically, anybody has a chance to be part of the Parsec award-winning podcast called the ScapeCast by submitting your entry by January 5th of 2007. This is your chance to give your writing the ScapeCast treatment, or will give your writing the ScapeCast treatment, I guess would be the correct way. Also, we're going to have other prizes if you submit early in October, November, and December. But remember, by submitting your work, you agree that the ScapeCast can use your work on our show. Fanfics and filks are not eligible for judging. And a filk, in case you don't know because I didn't, is a folk song. Remember, don't post your entries on the forums. We'll tell you where to submit them, and there'll be a link with our show notes about that.
So submit an article to our Thanks for Sharing contest, and you'll be sharing the wonders for Farscape. And don't forget, the final entry deadline is January 5th of 2007. And yes, that is a Friday, of course, in the honor of Farscape Friday.
Boy, we're going to have so much fun in January reading all these articles. I can't wait.
But that doesn't mean we want everybody to wait till January, Lindy, because we can't read all of them at the same time. So that's why we'll be sprinkling in some other little prizes if we get them in the earlier months as well.
Exactly.
I'm Wendy Hembrock with the news. CinemaBlend has voted Farscape the best TV show that nobody's seen, but should see on DVD. In a recent survey of amazing shows that never found a large audience on TV but should be watched on DVD, they ranked Farscape number 1. Farscape ran nearly 5 years on the Sci-Fi channel and won critical acclaim, but very few people have actually seen Farscape. Watching the episodes on DVD back-to-back, especially those cliffhangers and trilogies, is the way Farscape was made to be watched. You can catch all the jokes and make sense of the characters' constantly changing relationships. And what better time to discover Farscape on DVD now that the final Starburst Edition DVD comes out this month? Farscape Starburst Edition 4.3 comes out on October 10th. Edition 4.3 is loaded with special features, including a video wrap-up speech from David Kemper from the last day of shooting, new commentary for the series finale Bad Timing with Ben Browder, Claudia Black, and David Kemper, a listening in segment with composer Guy Gross, plus deleted scenes, more character histories, and more Farscape goodness. Some folks can still catch Farscape on TV, though. Canadian fans can now watch Farscape in syndication on A Channel Monday through Fridays at 3 p.m. And the second season of Farscape in U.S. syndication began this month, now including Season 4 episodes. Those without Farscape on TV or DVD can rediscover the show through the continuing Television Without Pity recaps. The recent episodes recapped include Season 4's Mental as Anything, Twice Shy, and Terra Firma. The trailer for the upcoming animated film Stolen Life, which stars the voice of Claudia Black, is available for online viewing. You may recall Kevin interviewed the director of Stolen Life in episode 12. The futuristic noir mystery is due to be completed by the end of the year. Fans can look forward to brief clips from Stolen Life online as the production progresses. Send your Scaper birthday wishes to Claudia Black on October 11th and Wayne Pygram on October 13th. Leather comes to mind as a good gift for either of those two. Jim Henson began his puppetry career at University of Maryland, and now his alma mater celebrates his legacy with exhibits spanning his entire career. Vin Novara, curator of the special collection, said he was surprised by much of the content and how Henson appealed to adults and children and developed his visual ideas. Novara said, quote, "Look at this one guy and a green frog could do." And now Brian Henson is closer to bringing his version of puppets to late-night TV. Back in July, we reported when TBS ordered the pilot for Late Night Buffet, a talk show featuring co-host puppets Augie and Del with celebrity guests. Now TBS reports the pilot has been completed, but no date yet on when it will air. A DVD set of classic Sesame Street is on its way this fall. Sesame Street Old School Volume 1 will be released on October 24th. And now for the convention report. The big one, the official Farscape Burbank convention, is fast approaching, November 3rd through the 5th. Guests will include Ben Browder, Gigi Edgley, Paul Goddard, Rayleigh Hill, Kent McCord, Wayne Pygram, Anthony Simcoe, Dave and Lou Elsey, and Signal Room. Get your karaoke on, as Signal Room will be offering fans an opportunity to try out as backup singers. Purchase your tickets for Signal Room by October 15th. They need to sell around 350 tickets to cover their expenses. So if you are considering seeing them, be sure to indicate your interest by ordering tickets before October 15th. And also join the ScapeCast during our live show from Burbank on Saturday. Check the link in our show notes for details on all the topics in today's show. I'm Wendy Hembrock for the ScapeCast.
Well, that item there that Wendy was talking about, Lindy, the Stolen Life trailer, that was really just reminds me again, as we mentioned last show, the interview I did with Jackie, and they showed some of that there at DragonCon. So that's getting exciting to see that coming to almost being available for all escapers to enjoy.
Well, I know they're going to have some of it at the Burbank convention. And you did see that it's Claudia's birthday this month.
Yes, we got a few people coming this month, actually. Must be something aligning the stars, getting all of the Farscape folks born towards the same time of year.
Oh, they say they'll call home pilot once a week. They never do.
You're absolutely right, John. They never do. And it's so easy to contact us. You can send us an email at feedback@scapecast.org, or you can open your web browser and go to our website at scapecast.org and either leave us a message in our forums, or if you have a microphone hooked up to your computer, find a button at the top right corner that says Talk to Us Now and leave us a voicemail. Or you can call us at area code 206-350-MOYA. That is 206-350-6692. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, everybody, now we're going to be having a crew chat. That's the roundup of the first 6 months of the ScapeCast. They said it couldn't be done, and we did it anyway. Right, Kevin?
That's right. We figured we'd have a little fun just letting everybody sit back and talk a little bit about it so you can get into our world a little bit of what's happened on the first few months of the show.
I think it'd be really great to start off with a little bit about the history of the ScapeCast. And we have 4 forefathers and mother. And we'll start with Kurt and Nicola because they're really the people who started and executed the idea.
The whole thing started back actually in August 2005 when I got my iPod and started listening to different podcasts. There were the MuggleCast and the Pottercast, and especially the Signal, and it inspired me to start thinking, hey, we should do something for Farscape.
I did a panel presentation in Calgary Conversion. It was a lot of fun, and T. Morris was at the convention, but because he had his own panels, he was unable to be at mine. However, as we all know, T's a huge fan of Farscape, so I decided that I would copy my presentation. It was a PowerPoint presentation, and give it to him at Burbank. Burbank rolls around, and the whole weekend everybody was so busy. You'd see T running from one end of the convention hotel to the other, and I'll get to you. Yeah, I haven't forgotten. And of course, I was pretty busy too. So finally, on the last day, he was trundling around with his suitcase trying to check out, and I grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and hauled him to sit down with my little laptop computer. And Kurt appeared from nowhere and tagged along with us, and I walked him through my presentation. At the end of it, he enjoyed it, thankfully, and at the end of it he said, you know what, you guys should do a podcast. And to be honest, that was the very first time I had even considered a podcast, and that was middle of November 2005.
Yeah, T wrote the Podcasting for Dummies book, and he's also got a number of other podcasts, including Moravi and the Podcasting for Dummies book podcast.
And he's also a contributor in the book that I read called
Farscape Forever, Sex, Drugs, and Killer Muppets.
Killer Muppets, that was
He's
it.
a big Farscape fan.
Yeah.
He crashed one of my presentations at Calgary Convention and said, please, may I please be on it? And, what do you say? Of course, you're a guest of the convention. Of course you may be on my presentation. And it was kind of like, oh, who is this person? What does he want to say and do? And he was fantastic. So, yeah, it was great.
I had started to get into the show. This was probably in the February timeline or somewhere in there of this year, 2006. And realizing how much I enjoyed the show, and having been involved in the Signal, I knew how much a podcast could really enhance that whole experience. So I went looking for one and couldn't find one. But I did find that thread on one of the forums, so I jumped in and said, hey, this would be great. I'll be glad to help if I can, in any way, having no idea I'd get roped into being co-host, but that certainly helped to kind of springboard things from there.
Somewhere down the line, I think Nicola had heard some of the short news, I called it John and Aaron News on my website, that I had done. A friend of mine had started a podcast that had absolutely nothing to do with science fiction. And I realized that it'd be kind of a cool way to try to keep people updated. I had a blog where I would try to post news items. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll try to record a little weekly news segment that people can download on their MP3 players and listen to. And it wasn't as full-blown as the kind of podcasting we're doing now, but I had put out a few episodes of that and started kind of running out of time to do it. And then after that, I got I don't know if it was a PM or an email from Nicola basically saying, would you be interested in working on a Farscape podcast? And I thought, yeah, I'd be very interested. I mean, I don't have the time to create all the content, which is why the newscast was always so short and started dwindling and dying on the vine, but that's when I got into the team, joined Kevin, Kurt, and Nicola, and we started looking for others.
And I think the rest of us kind of answered want ads.
Auditions, Lindy, not want ads, auditions.
Yeah, they were auditions.
Well, it started as a want ad, and then
we got
it
a lot
ended
of
up
great
as an
talent
audition.
coming in from those.
No, you sacrificed yourself.
Okay, she's out.
So who was the next one to join the cast? Was it Lindy, or did we bring in Wendy at that point, or Kim? I can't remember.
I think Lindy was first, but
it all happened very fast.
It kind of all started snowballing in a very instantaneously, because we gave ourselves a deadline, something like we're going to have the first one out in a month, and we if you guys remember this, and we sort of all got together and said, yes, we're going to do a podcast, and our first episode is going to be in a month. And that's how it all happened. Boom. Gosh, those were heady days.
It's good to give yourself a deadline, though, because otherwise it can just spin and keep going until you think that, well, I'd like to have this or this or this. But having an actual deadline, I think, really...
And they did.
...makes things come together.
I remember we went back and forth quite a bit on that, and it was a few meetings. We finally just said, okay, we're never going to get this done unless we just set a date and do it, no matter what comes out of it, and that's what we did.
Wendy, what interested you in doing the podcast?
Well, actually, I had listened to The Signal. That was the first podcast I listened to. And I remember when that thread was posted, like shortly after The Signal first started, and then it kind of dropped for a podcast for Farscape. And I actually remember, I think it was Brent who posted some links to his John and Aaron news as examples. So there was like a lot of brainstorming going on, and then whoever was the person that was organizing it was just starting to learn how to podcast and kind of disappeared. And then when it got posted again later, when Kevin posted the one ad thing, I think it went out to like one of the Farscape Yahoo groups or something. And that's when I saw it and went ahead and gave it a shot.
And Kim?
Well, I was an occasional listener of The Signal, but I don't have an iPod, so it was kind of hard for me to stop everything I was doing to sit at the computer and listen to the show. But I was familiar with podcasting. That was like one of the only podcasts I'd ever listened to. And I had been into Farscape through the syndication deal starting in January of 2006, and that's about the time I started browsing the forum stuff from Me Dead, Terra Firma, and I saw the post for help or audition or one ad or whatever you want to call it at watchfarscape.com, and I saw it and I thought, well, shoot, I've been interested in some voice work for quite a long time. That's one of the things I do when I go to San Diego Comic-Con is I try to attend the voice panels because they're always fun. I always learn something from them. So I thought, what do I have to lose? I'll send them a file, and if they don't like it, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I read the copy and sent it in, and then somebody replied, Kevin or Brent or somebody said, okay, record this, send us something else. I was like, okay, and then I sent something else and send us something else. Okay, and I rambled. I think I sent a 4-minute ramble of God knows what, how I got into the show. And that was how it all started. And then I got the invite, and I was like, yay, I'm in. So that was it. I was in. The beginning of the end.
A funny little story about Kim. I remember when the four, or there's probably the 5 of us by then. Yeah, maybe 4 of us. We're listening to Kim's submission, and I remember posting something in the thread where we were talking about it, saying, "She sounds really nice. She just needs to lay off the caffeine." She talks
caffeine. Yeah, I was pretty excited, wasn't I?
Okay.
Oh yes, well, an abundance of energy helps with the amount of work we have to do, so that we knew that was a good start.
And then Sammy, you were kind of recruited later on in, huh?
Yeah, I was. I think you were already up to episode 3 or something. I missed the original posts on the boards because I was pretty busy at that time. And it was back the beginning of May when Nicola emailed me and said, look, you went to this convention. Would you like to write a report and voice it for us? And I just said, okay. So I did that and sent it to her, and she emailed me back and said, oh, this was great, and, we could really need another editor. And I said, okay. So you gave me something to edit. I did, and apparently you liked it, and that's when you welcomed me on board.
Yeah, I wanted you on board for writers, Sammy, and you bailed on me. Brent snaggled you. Yeah.
She saw my ad for a help wanted editor, and as soon as she replied, I mean, I knew Sammy knew how to work around an editor and stuff because of all the music videos she'd done. There's a lot of audio editing there too. So I mean, the only concern I had when Sammy came along was I said, we know you're a student. Are you going to have the time? Because it takes a lot of time. But I didn't have any concerns whatsoever about her abilities as an editor. So that was wonderful to get her on board.
So how much time do you think we spend a week on this, or is that something we want to talk about? Because that was actually the spousal unit's question to me.
It varies.
How
For
much
me,
time
it
is this
varies.
going to take?
Sometimes I spend, hours and hours and hours, and sometimes things come together beautifully, and it's, like the suggestion at the very beginning was, Kevin said it would be about 10 hours a week, and yeah, that would be about average on a reasonable week. That's about what we do. There are some weeks that are not quite so reasonable, though.
I know in my case that editing an episode, for instance, that I should really be a good boy and pace myself over the 2 weeks that I get to do it. But I'm really bad and really lazy and a procrastinator, and I tend to, from about the weekend before the release to about Wednesday, Thursday, I'm just cramming like crazy, spending almost every free minute I have. I mean, I have a regular 9-to-5 job, and basically every other hour after that, I'm usually spent editing some files, putting things together, what have you, getting episodes ready for you guys to listen to.
So every other week your family kind of kisses you goodbye, and you go in your Martian cave and...
Yeah, pretty much.
Twirl all those dials, huh? Yeah.
But it's also great, talking about some of the individuals, is the fact that this is only possible because we have so many of us that are dedicated to doing it. I mean, this is truly a team effort between the writers and the editors and some of the other voice work folks, is just making it all come together and using some of the tools of the internet to make it happen. This is fantastic to see it come this way.
The solo little news podcast I did, I basically just lost interest in it because I didn't have the motivation. But when working with you guys, I mean, I can't stop doing it. I can't, decide, I don't really want to do it this week, because there's so many people that are working on it. They all have the passion. They're all delivering on time, doing their stuff. I think it's great. I don't think it's any kind of a pressure at all. I love it because now I'm part of a team of people who really care about this thing and clearly have a passion, and it gets the job done. It gets an episode out every 2 weeks that I think I'm pretty darn proud of.
Yeah, me too. It's a teamwork.
In addition to the people who you're listening to now on our crew chat here, Nicola also has this stable of writers who are freelance people who contribute.
Send your submission to the ScapeCast.
That's right, because we as we mentioned earlier in the episode today, there is a writers contest, so this is a perfect opportunity for you to join a big happy crew.
Yeah, we don't just have that stable of writers, though. We have that stable of voice talent. I mean, we've got some interesting people who've voiced articles or even regular recurring characters for us, and they usually end up being friends or associates of members of the staff. I mean, some of the names like Hank Schiffman and Ken Chapina and a couple of others, right?
Exactly. Yeah. After meeting Hank in person, having him read a promo for us, I said, boy, this guy could actually read and talk and everything. We need to have him on the show.
Oh, and we got that Beacon guy, too.
He just
the
attention.
Beacon guy. Even though he is a little scary.
But, I mean, aside from the excitement, too, of getting us as a group together and putting that there, what really makes it work, though, is after we've put together the shows and we get them out there, is hearing the feedback from the listeners. Because, I mean, that is what really is what makes it all worthwhile, is getting the feedback from the Scapers themselves to know that, well, we've put our passion out there, they share in it, and they come back and let us know what we're doing.
I know that I get kind of giddy like a schoolgirl there, Kevin, when the episodes go out. Just refreshing the forums and visiting the other Farscape sites just to see if anybody has anything to say about the episodes. So I know what you mean. I love that feedback.
Yeah, I really like to hear it when people say, and to find people who say things to you like, I recognize your voice.
Yeah, that was one of the fun parts in DragonCon, is walking around with Kevin and say, hey, you're Kevin, or you're Kurt, or you're... It's one of the fun parts.
People actually recognized your voice, Kurt? Was it Kurt or Kurt Hogthrob?
Well, not me, but Kevin.
Well, I don't know if everyone knows this, but for my audition, I actually sang. And I think most people will say that, like Brent says, I can't sing.
Basically what we said was if she'd sing in an audition, we could get her to do anything.
They needed some good comic relief.
Yeah, that was pretty much the attitude.
Yeah, again, that was detecting the energy and the passion right off the bat.
Remember in our early crew calls, she wanted to sing too?
What early crew calls? She still wants to sing.
Well, I have to say, the best thing that has happened to me since being on the ScapeCast is meeting you guys and becoming friends with you. And I've met almost everyone in person.
When did you meet Kurt?
Through sheer luck of the geography draw.
Almost everybody.
It's really been cool.
How could you not have met Kevin?
Haven't
You
met
spend
Kurt,
so much
and
time
I
with
haven't
him.
met Kevin. I said I didn't meet everyone, but I've met.
I hear you two are married.
Yeah, well, we have the same dog.
Oh, you're going downhill. I'm letting you go alone.
Yeah. What a team player.
Yeah, that's exactly what a husband would do.
Yeah, you like that teamwork there?
Isn't that just like your husband? Isn't that just like a husband?
See, the wonderful thing about having some great editors like Brent and Sammy is they make us sound good. In terms of what gets edited out is really something between Lindy and I, let me tell you.
Yeah, I'd like to put a plug in for anybody who doesn't listen to the credits at the end of the show. We like to sneak in the bloopers, usually by Lindy and Kevin.
And they're usually pretty good.
And you have to work very hard to find those.
I never knew I could have so many bloopers in my life.
Never.
What about anyone have any thoughts or stories to share about, once the excitement of getting involved in the podcast and realizing how much real work it was?
Not in my case. I mean, I kind of had a feeling, knowing what technical steps were involved, how much time would be involved in what I did, and there's no surprise there. I definitely, to me, it's not. I'm pleasantly surprised. The first experience I had was doing that newscast. It was very plain, very vanilla, and I have been extremely pleasantly surprised at the amount of creativity that all of us, and myself included, have been allowed to express in the show. Inventing character voices and all kinds of things. That's been really fun.
It's almost like directing a play, and you get to choose and manipulate the environment to create the ambiance you're looking for, and it's a much wider universe than just writing and voicing an article.
Well, shall we wrap this up and talk about some of the things that we have planned for the next 6 months of the ScapeCast? First, I want to tell everyone that we consider January the beginning of a new season of the ScapeCast, so that will be called Season 2 of the ScapeCast, and I think that there are some changes coming up in that format, and that's coming up in the next 6 months. And also, we're going to have a new segment called, instead of Heckling from the Balcony, we're going to call it Shooting from the Hip. And this is going to be the ScapeCast crew getting together and talking about an episode of Farscape, what we think the meaning is, and what it means to us. But what we'd like to do is have the listeners choose which episodes we review and discuss. So we're going to have some postings on the forum. You can probably check the show notes for this, where we'll have a list of episodes that you can all vote on for us to discuss. I want to thank everybody on our crew for getting together for this little chat so we can catch up our listeners as to how we think things have been going with the ScapeCast. I want to thank the founding members of the ScapeCast crew for coming up with this really great idea and then inviting the rest of us along for the ride, because it's been a great one, and I hope there's much more to come. And now back to the rest of our show.
Hello, we're Signal Room. We're in the process of organising a new CD. We've got a bunch of new songs, and we're coming to Burbank. So, looking forward to seeing you all there.
Get online, buy some tickets, and come to the Farscape Con Signal Room gig. You're going to have a fantastic time, and we'll have a really blast that Friday night. So get yourself and your friends there. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Andrew Jackson. You're going to catch me on Kyle XY in the last 3 episodes of the season. It's something to look forward on ABC, and you're listening to the ScapeCast, your guide to the wonders of Farscape.
And now we have for you part 2 of what's going to be a 3-part segment, Aliens, Muppets, and Wormholes, Oh My, by Tricia Ennis.
Lions and tigers and bears, oh my!
Aliens, wormholes, and Muppets, oh my! While the premise of Farscape may seem outlandish, one thing that made the show such a hit with fans, and a major factor in the show's success, was its realism. Realism? In science fiction? Crichton is in outer space, on a living spaceship, and there are aliens. And some of those aliens are Muppets, of all things. But as one fan noted, the cast and crew gave us characters that were flawed, but still made you care about them. The world they created had imperfections. It was not sterilized. The story arcs and the character development, you cared what happened to that astronaut, his ladylove, and the aliens who became his friends. If the characters had not been so flawed or real, it is doubtful that those characters would have worked their way into the hearts of so many people. Not only did these characters share traits with the audience, but they also shared one major characteristic with one another. They were all just looking for a way home. As I mentioned earlier, John was not the only one separated from his home, his family, and his friends. They all were, and they all wanted to go back. The only exceptions were Erin, who could never go home due to her irreversibly contaminated state, and Moya, the ship on which they lived, a biomechanoid, a living ship, and her symbiotic pilot, who lived only to serve those who traveled on board. Home was the one thing that each of them wanted, and that none of them had. It was the topic that helped to bond them all together and the argument that would tear them all apart. The hope of one day going home is what kept them all going for the 4 years they spent together, and the hope that one day they would realize their dreams kept fans returning every week. The writers, though, are not all that make a show. Someone at some point in time must put that script to screen. Yes, I'm talking about the actors. They are the people who become the faces of the shows they work on, and the ones that bring the characters to life. Lucky for Farscape and for its fans, the casting directors had impeccable taste because they ended up with a truly all-star cast of characters. In my opinion, each and every actor had their chance to shine throughout the course of the show. Each had an episode or two devoted solely to the development of their character, and each took their character to new heights, showing off their personal talents in the process. There was no better example of this than in the Season 3 episode, The Choice. Claudia Black, the actress behind Aaron Sun, took this opportunity to play on our heartstrings and to break most of them. By this point in time, the writers had extended the story to create a relationship between John and herself, then cloned John and sent her off with one of the clones, whom she fell in love with just in time to witness his death. Later in the episode, her estranged mother returns after being assumed dead, only to make an attempt on Aaron's life to avenge that of her lovers, whom she murdered in exchange for the young Aaron's life. All in all, this was not a very good episode in terms of Aaron's well-being. At the start of the episode, we find Aaron very much distraught over the death of her love. She secluded herself in a rundown flophouse on a planet filled with mystics and criminals, and has proceeded to drink herself into a stupor. In this state, she sees several apparitions of John that bring back all sorts of memories for both herself and the audience who experienced them with her. In one single unifying moment, the entire episode comes to a point. Well, okay, 2 unifying moments. In the first, Aaron looks at one of the memories and says,
"Was it easy to be a hero? Leave me behind."
The emotion that she puts into these words is not, but the look in her eyes can tell the viewer everything she is feeling. They look confused, hurt, almost childlike, staring into a face she knows is not really there, but that she wants so badly to see again. The second is in a moment of complete apathy. She has given up all care for her own life and is staring down the barrel of a gun held by her own mother, yet she stares at this woman's face as though daring her to pull the trigger, saying,
"We peacekeepers think that we are so remarkable. Soldiers without equal and precise tacticians, pure bloods. But I've realized that we're not remarkable. We do nothing for love. Not one thing."
Recognizing that love is the emotion that distinguishes the exceptional from the commonplace is a theme that Farscape returns to again and again. A conversation between Dargo and Pilot, the most remarkable creature on this remarkable ship, personifies this perspective and again illustrates the powerful acting skills of this ensemble group of actors.
I'm beginning to understand. The glimpses I get of what you experience, Pilot, they make my own life feel insignificant.
That's not true, Dargo.
It is. I have memories of my son, of a wife, but you have seen the galaxies and the birth of stars.
But I have no memories of love, of friendship. None. You have the remarkable memories, Darko.
In spite of their alien appearance, the characters on Farscape are painfully human, and the actors, whether they be puppeteers or buried under layers of prosthetics, manage to provide the audience a window into the soul of an alien creature, the alien other, and discover that they are not so different from ourselves after all. For the ScapeCast, I'm Kimberly Thompson.
Kevin, I'm really looking forward to hearing the end of this story on the next episode of the ScapeCast.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that too, Lindy. This is a great example of some articles that are really taking a nice critical look at the whole Farscape world. It's really great to see that.
Attention! There are opportunities all around you. Opportunities to help spread the Scaper word around the world. The ScapeCast Beacon, a call to all Scapers to mobilize. The rock band Heads or Tails has released a song inspired by Farscape. The song, entitled Escape, can be found on their site, which is in our show notes. The ScapeCast is recording a live show at Creation's official Farscape convention in Burbank on November 4th. Be sure to get your con tickets now to be a part of the show. The Burbank con books continue to need your help. Some are in danger of not being prepared due to lack of material from Scapers. Contact your favorite celebrity's con book organizer right away to add your thoughts, images, or other material. The Claudia Black Portal is announcing their first banner contest. They are looking for a banner to introduce them to Claudia's fans far and wide. It's fun, it's easy, and they have prizes. The deadline is October 11th. Check our show notes for more information. This has been the ScapeCast Beacon, a call to all Scapers to mobilize.
Hi, I'm Jamie, and for me, Farscape is great adventure, a beautiful love story, and fun products for review.
Hey, wait, I got a couple of questions. Couple of 1,000 more questions.
Question of the week.
This week's question is, who is the sexiest character on Farscape?
Karen, aka Chi27, writes on the ScapeCast forums. Oh, that's a hard one. Not. It's John Crichton. It's not just his body that makes him sexy, though it's a major factor. It's because of his humor, sensitivity, and his voice, to name a few. Other Farscape female characters would agree with me.
A friend of David Wall's left this message for us on our voicemail line.
This is Al Pacino. When I think of Farscape, I think of jazz and Jell-O pudding. And when I think of the sexiest character, I think of Tiana. She's a beauty with a bang. When she's on screen, brother, I think of two things, who and her. This is Al Pacino for the ScapeCast, your guide to the wonders of Farscape. Hoo-ha!
Autumn and Trevor wrote on our forums, well, Neum, aka Peacekeeper Barbie, gets the vote for being so emotionally cold while prancing around in her skin-tight black outfit. She is the only evil Peacekeeper character that can stand next to Scorpius and not be completely overshadowed. He is still cooler, but she is right there with him. And being played by an actress with such a cool name, Imogen Annesley, she gets double points. We do, however, like blue rather than red.
Socket in place. Ready to install the neurochip.
Did you see her eyes? Piercing blue. Skin-tight catsuit. No one else looked as good. Face, body, look, attitude. Nurse Froy is the sexiest character, without a doubt.
Sandy in Port Chester, New York says, I'm going to go with the not-so-obvious answer here. The sexiest Farscape character? Moya. I dare you to compare her sleek lines and rounded curves to, say, the sterility and grayness of the Enterprise, or look her over versus the battle-hardened Galactica. From Moya's warm bronze tan to the sensual passageways and the very sexy kitten purr voice we hear that one time, she's one hot mama ship. Plus, how many other spaceships have given birth? Cheers. P.S. The ScapeCast keeps getting better and better. The analysis has been great, and the interviews first rate.
Hi, I'm Brent from the ScapeCast. Those who know me probably assume that I think Erin is the sexiest character on Farscape. Well, Erin is drop-dead sexy and drop-dead gorgeous, but I'd probably describe her more as the most beautiful and sexy lady on Farscape. To me, when you just talk about sexy, then raw sex appeal has to be considered alone. So the distinction of sexiest Farscape character for me has to go to Natira. Yeah, I know, she's a freaky, twisted critter with a spider-like head and a fetish for eyeballs, but her physical presence and striking curves just scream sex appeal to this red-blooded male.
Jarek writes, Sexiest character. Well, it's going to be female, but that doesn't mean the most beautiful or the cutest, since I would probably pick a different character for each of those descriptions. So to be sexy, at least for me, she has to have an edge or a dark side to her character, and it comes down to two. The first being Genevieve Charto, who looked great and was very dangerous and passionate when called for. The second character, and my actual answer to the question, might raise a few eyebrows in Natria. Yes, the Spider-Woman, whose delights Scorpius indulged in, and who really likes to collect eyeballs. She ain't beautiful, nor is she cute, but she's damn sexy, and that effect at times cannot really be explained to anyone, maybe not even yourself.
Kevin, I don't know what to say.
Lindy, that's impossible. Lindy's never been speechless before in the several months that I've known you. Certainly not on a Farscape topic.
I can't, the obvious answers just seem so obvious.
Well, sometimes simple is best. You can go with that.
Okay. John Crichton. Grade A, 100% Angus beef, blue eyes, 2020, black t-shirt, and Winona.
So you're saving all that. You're going to rehearse that just like that when you meet him in Burbank, right?
Oh, I don't even want to go there yet. What about you?
Well, for me, I certainly had a couple favorites. I'm going to lean and go with Chiana. I know, certainly a lot of folks are going to pick Erin, and she looks great, and she is sexy, and no disrespect, but I don't know, there's just something about Chiana that really, from a sexy point of view, to me, that's the one I'm going to pick.
So you go with the Tralky girls, huh?
Don't let that get out, okay? Don't tell my wife, all right? Don't go too far on that, but no, that's what I'm going to go with. I do recall an episode, I think it was season 4 or towards the end, too, where she was in blue or something.
They frelled with her DNA.
Yes, that one I thought was definitely attention-grabbing. That one stuck out in my mind along with many others, but it's my answer and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, so what did you think of Naranti? She looked kind of cute too, didn't she?
No. Don't ruin my moment.
Okay, sorry.
Now, for our next episode, we got a question for you folks. And this one we thought would be fun to talk about. What's your favorite bonus feature from the Farscape DVDs? Doesn't have to be a Starburst one, and we're not talking about commentaries because there are some great commentaries. But after watching all of the discs, which one do you find in the bonus side of things that you really enjoyed or you enjoy watching again? So let us know that. Share it with us on the forums or the voicemail or whatever. It might be ones that other folks even haven't got to yet, so now we'll know who can go grab a certain disc and get to a great part.
And any clues to Easter eggs are always welcome.
Now it's time for the answer to the Farscape trivia question you heard earlier in the show. I asked you how many living Hynerians we've seen in Farscape. Did you get the answer? Well, it's 3. Rigel, of course, was throughout the show. But in Season 3's Fractures, we met a PK spy and Rigel's own femme fatale, Orin Pack. And finally, in PK Wars, we saw Rigel's cousin Bishan in a transmission from Hyneria. Thanks for playing, and stay tuned for the next episode and more trivia fun. Whoa, wait a second. You thought I forgot all about that question last week, didn't you, about the Trout Talk actors? Well, I didn't. Here are the answers.
My name is Ema.
Is played by Kimberly Thompson.
Mr. Hoople here.
Is played by our own Hank Schiffman.
This is Orville the Slightly Annoyed.
Is played by Ken Shapina.
Nookie Monster here.
Is played by myself, Brent Barrett.
This is Dr. Ernestine Spam here.
And Ernestine Spam is played by our co-host, Lindy Ray. I'm Brent Barrett for the ScapeCast.
This episode has been brought to you by the word leaking.
Oh my gosh, Kevin, I am so excited about the Burbank convention. I've never gone to a Burbank Farscape convention, and I'm really looking forward to meeting fellow Scapers and, just having Scapers and not all those other fans and stuff. That it'll just be pure, unadulterated scaping for the entire weekend. It'll be great.
Yep. No, I understand. I'm still trying to pull some strings and find a way to get there myself for at least part of it. It would be so much fun to meet everybody else in person. So I'm hoping I get there too.
Well, we're pulling for you.
And one of the other important things I know you folks have heard mentioned and certainly seen on the forums is the Signal Room tickets for the Friday night concert and how important those are to be bought in advance. So if you're going to be there, be sure to take care of that part so that we make sure everything comes together and we all get to have a great time.
I heard some of their music. It's really great. I'm looking forward to it, and be able to go to a concert like that and only have to pay $25. That is really good, because I don't know if you've seen the price of tickets for anything these days. That's a pretty cool deal. You know, another thing that's going to happen is we're going to be doing that live podcast, and the crew, we've been working really hard to put together what should be a really fun show. And part of it is going to be, when we're doing the podcast at the con, is that we're going to be taking questions from all our listeners who are in the audience and taking your questions and your comments during the actual taping of the show. So bring them with you. Bring good questions. We'll have people there to answer, and we're hoping to have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, I know from doing a live version of the Signal podcast at DragonCon, the audience members had a lot of fun when we had that open mic, so to speak, to make some comments about the podcast or Farscape or whatever. So we're looking forward to getting a chance to have you folks involved.
Well, we hope that you've enjoyed listening to this scintillating episode of the ScapeCast as much as we have putting it together for you. I want to say thanks to Nicola for another wonderful character study about my favorite furry friend, Rigel.
Yeah, and I can't wait to hear Trish's ending for the Aliens, Muppets, and Wormholes segment. A lot of great information in there.
Yeah. And if you enjoy our crew chats, please let us know if there's a topic you'd like us to discuss. You could hear it on a future episode of the ScapeCast.
We know we've heard mention of you folks asking us to potentially do some episode commentaries by the crew. So that's something we have some interest in doing. We just haven't had a chance to work out the scheduling on that. So time will tell if we're able to do something like that. But if you do have any other specific crew chat topics besides those you'd like to hear, we'd love to hear about them.
I think that now that we have the Starburst editions, we'll be able to have more fun with that too, since we all have our freshly minted DVDs.
Exactly. And I know something else we're hopefully going to see in a fairly soon episode coming up. Lindy's going to get a chance to talk, hopefully, while the scheduling comes together, with one of the 2-Up writers, the Television Without Pity.
I'm really looking forward to that. I have been so enjoying reading all the recaps and just sitting here laughing, because some of them are very funny and some of them have very interesting perspectives. So I'm looking forward to that interview, and you'll hear about that more in a future episode. So thanks, everybody, for joining us as we continue on our journey. I'm Lindy.
And I'm Kevin. And now it's time to disable your comms and find new wonders. Until next time.
This is John Crichton. Somewhere in the universe.
You've been listening to the ScapeCast, episode 13, produced October 2006. Writers for this episode were Lindy Ray, Kevin Batchelder, Nicola Wood, Brent Barrett, Wendy Hambrock, Trisha Ennis, and Kurt Armbruster. This episode featured voice performances by
Lindy Ray,
Kevin Batchelder,
Kimberly Thompson,
Sammy Moore,
Ken Chapina,
Hank Schiffman,
Brent Barrett,
Nicola Wood, Wendy Hambrock,
Kurt Armbruster.
For the entire ScapeCast crew, I'm Sammy Moore. Thanks for listening, and fly safe.
From Geek Lake. Okay, let's do that again.